Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals. Well, let me give you guys a forearm shot first. Forearms are on point. You know, someone told me in my comments, quit doing the forearm shot, it's cringy. Nobody cares what you think. I didn't ask you anything. All right, back over to the video. Let's talk about Jay Cutler. And I have no beef with Jay Cutler, by the way. But here's the thing. I've seen it brought up. Someone linked me a video. And then I kind of look at some of the discussions. You know, they linked me a video this morning or yesterday. Had a quick peek, and Jay Cutler has apparently said that he doesn't think the bench press is a good chest exercise. He thinks it's a dangerous exercise. And look, here's going to be my response to some of that. Some people are going to say, but you know, Jay Cutler's won the Mr. Olympia. He's a great bodybuilder. Therefore, his opinion holds a lot of weight on it. And here's my problem with that. That's anecdotal, number one. And there's a problem with that anecdote. Okay, there's a big problem with using that anecdote. If that is going to be your answer, and you're going to ignore scientific data, you're going to ignore history, you're going to ignore the history of bodybuilding, the history of muscle growth, the history of lifting, you're going to ignore all the research, and you're going to use the anecdote of one bodybuilder who has obviously been number one in the world. Okay, he has won the Mr. Olympia, right? That gives a lot of credibility. Okay, fair enough. I mean, a person wins the Mr. Olympia, they probably have a pretty reasonable knowledge of lifting. That's not an unreasonable position. However, here's the problem with that anecdote. Has someone better than him said the opposite? So if we're going to say anecdote and someone says, well, because Jay Cutler said it, I'm going to take it seriously. But who beat Jay Cutler multiple times? Okay. Who, objectively speaking, if we're going to say because the guy's won the Mr. Olympia, how many times was he beaten by Ronnie Coleman? Do you see where we're going with this? If that is going to be your chain of logic, well, you know, you've never won the Mr. Olympia. He has, and therefore his opinion holds more weight on a muscle building exercise and what's dangerous. But Ronnie Coleman has said in multiple interviews over the year that the bench press is his favorite chest exercise. So do we see the problem with this anecdote? So if we're going to take number of wins in competition as the bona fide for it, has anybody won the Mr. Olympia more times than Ronnie Coleman? Okay. Now people will say, well, you know, Arnold won it a lot of times, so Arnold's way up there. Arnold loved the bench press. Arnold was really good at the bench press. Arnold did a lot of bench pressing. He bench pressed on camera. He was a fan of the lift. Okay. The people say, well, that was an older generation, but just going to point out, if we're going to take winning the Mr. Olympia, well, I don't know, people who've won the Olympia 5, 6, 7 times then, wouldn't their opinion hold more weight? If that's your logic. Okay, so Arnold was a fan of the bench press. He won the Olympia a bunch of times. So then you say, yeah, but you know, older generation and Jay was bigger. Okay, but how many times did Ronnie Coleman beat Jay Cutler? Numerous times. Ronnie Coleman beat Jay Cutler in the Mr. Olympia more times than Jay Cutler has won the Mr. Olympia. Ronnie Coleman says, bench press is my favorite chest exercise. It's king. Now, Jay's saying, well, it's dangerous. Ronnie Coleman was hurt many times. He was never hurt bench pressing. So let's go back over to, if we're going to use this anecdote, we've all seen Ronnie Coleman rep 500 pounds on the bench press. Have we not? If you haven't, go look for it. He could do reps with 500 pounds. He never tore a pec or injured himself on the bench press even once. If we're going to use Mr. Olympia status as our reason, then the bench press wins here. Because when you look at the sum total of Mr. Olympia wins, how many Mr. Olympia wins are associated versus people who say the bench press is great versus people who don't? The bench press wins. How many of those people who have won the Mr. Olympia, who loved the bench press, got hurt doing it? I don't know of any. I can't think of a single one. And if you can, by all means, answer that. Is that then your logic for saying it's a dangerous exercise? Well, clearly not. Ronnie Coleman got hurt doing a lot of other stuff. He got hurt doing barbell rows, things like that. Never got hurt on the bench press, repping 500 pounds. So let's come over and let's think about what the data shows. When you look at research on pectoral growth and pectoral stimulation, how does the bench press score? Extremely well. We have numerous studies showing hypertrophy studies showing that the bench press causes the entire chest to grow. In the lab, measured in people over time, there are plenty of studies where the bench press was the only chest exercise done. The middle, the lower, and the upper pecs all grew at rapid rates while performing hard sets of bench press. There are at least a dozen human studies showing this. There are also at least a dozen human studies showing that the bench press stimulates activity in the chest in all those portions, lower, middle, and upper. Multiple studies. So we know based upon the research that what? The bench press both stimulates the entire chest. We know based upon multiple studies that it causes measurable and significant muscle growth in the entire chest, even when it is the only chest exercise done. Biomechanically, if you look at how the human body works, the pectorals should be the primary mover on the bench press. The only reason some people get less chest stimulation is they literally go out of their way to try to take the chest out of it. How do they do that? They grip it as close as possible. They skip the bottom. They don't pause to bounce it off their chest or skip the bottom, so that they try to reduce the pec stimulus in the lengthened position. They'll try to make the triceps take over more by gripping it too close. They will do all of this stuff to try to remove the pectorals, and then they'll stand there and say, I don't feel it in my chest that much compared to whatever other muscles. But they are intentionally performing the exercise in a way to use their chest less. Like, that has to be their goal. They can't possibly be trying to grow their chest, because if you grip it out wide, right, grip it wide, lower it to your lower chest with your wrist stacked, pause it or lightly touch with a soft touch on your chest, and then drive it up, and you do those sets close to failure, your pecs are going to almost cramp up. You cannot avoid feeling it in the chest as a primary mover if you do it that way. So when you look at that sum total evidence, all of the anecdote of the Mr. Olympia wins, all of the scientific evidence on muscle growth, on stimulation, it is extremely and overwhelmingly clear that the bench press is a very, very good pectoral exercise. Tons of people have benched enormous amounts of weight without getting hurt. Usually it's overuse, excessive gear use, right? These are what cause the injuries. It's not the exercise isn't particularly dangerous. Improper use of an exercise is dangerous. Overuse is dangerous, not the exercise. All right? Getting in your car is dangerous if you don't follow safety precautions. I mean, you don't get in your car to drive to go to the gym? Exactly. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.